Wacken Festival, Germany. It's 2008.
You're not nervous?
I'm more so just feel uncomfortable because this is the first time we're using the gear, so I'm a little nervous about that.
It's a very crucial show, and a lot could go wrong.
There's like, I don't know, not that many people out there.
Show the crowd.
No pressure?
No pressure, zero pressure.
Biggest show I've ever played. So it's scary. And we have to play an hour, and I'm really scared.
I don't even want to talk right now. Have you seen that? Have you seen that? Woo!
So I was about 13 when I started hanging out with other musicians and got interested in the idea of playing in bands, but it wasn't until I was about 17 that I started to pick up on their knowledge and learn how to play bass. That was just like local high school band. At the time, we didn't even have a name. You know, we just knew that if we got a band together, we could probably play some shows.
Just a bunch of us football players decided to start a band.
If you saw this kid in the 11th grade, he had shaved head, he was bench pressing twice his weight. He was just this athlete.
And I think Tim, shortly after that, stopped playing football. Like, he didn't finish high school playing football. He started taking music more seriously.
Tim, I think, began to sort of rethink his life in terms of what is the meaning of life and where's my gift.
My parents, they were supportive of me, but also skeptical in the same way that I think, you know, anybody should be, that how realistic is it to make a living playing music? But at least if you give it a shot, you know, you'll never know.
And I think they have to find their own path in life, and sometimes you don't always agree with it, but, you know, as long as it's good values and ethics, and I mean, you just have to go with them on it.
The reason I wanted to be in a band in the first place is the obvious love of music, and as a music listener, there's so much musically that I was passionate about, but I wanted to create something that represented where I was coming from, and it was an outlet for me. I always wanted to play bass in the first 3 or 4 bands that I was in, and I eventually became a singer because we could never find a singer that all of us believed in and wanted to back. And so one day I just said, all right, screw this, give me the mic, let me give this a shot. And I couldn't say that I was great, but I was better than all the guys that we were trying out.
When I first joined, the band was called Against the Mark. The music at first wasn't really that heavy. It was just kind of like pseudo hard rock, you know, kind of with hardcore tinged. It wasn't really metal by any stretch of the term.
Growing up, I was always drawn towards more aggressive types of music, and, you know, metal seemed to fit that the best, of course, but a lot of metal bands have lyrics I didn't relate to at all. And so from there, I kind of drifted more into like the punk hardcore scene because those bands were so down to earth and so involved in the communities that they lived in. So I got into that whole scene, not necessarily because it was my absolute favorite style of music, but because the ethics behind it were so important to me.
And then from Against the Mark, we're like, dude, we need to step it up big time here. Big name change. So it became Life Once Lost.
We wanted to tour and everything, and I was still in high school, so there were kind of some challenges to touring.
We'd like get them out of class and out of school to come play shows and stuff.
We would drive to the middle of nowhere and play a show at like VFW Hall or something. And we made an EP at this place, Double Time.
If you're a new band and you want recordings at least going to sound decent, that's where every band went.
Right after that, Tim quit to be in a band called Society's Finest.
I left California and moved out to Texas and played guitar for Society's Finest. It wasn't too long, it was only like, it was under 6 months.
They probably weren't as active as a band as he was hoping. They weren't really touring or really doing much outside of Dallas, so he's decided to move back and do it himself.
All those guys had a cool musical direction. I wanted to do something that was a little bit more full-time, and I felt like if it's my own band, I could make it as full-time as I want it to be.
When he got back from playing Society's Finest, he wanted to start A Life Once Lost up again.
Tim's always been a pretty driven guy, and so he came back with like a serious vision.
I didn't care if I played guitar or played bass or sang. I just wanted to get the best group of musicians together possible.
I mean, the only original member that was actually in the band was him, so it was pretty much a new band.
Jordan played in some other band, Edge of Mortality, and we thought he was like a really great drummer, and so Tim always kind of like had his eye on him, I could tell.
Edge of Mortality started when I was in high school. I met Jordan actually through a mutual friend of mine.
They lost their drummer, and one of my friends knew him, and he's like, oh, hey, my friend plays drums, and I'm like, cool, like, let him try out. And I'd never played like double bass, anything like that in my life. As musicians, they were a lot more, mature than I was. They were a lot better, and so it forced me to catch up. I owe a lot to them for taking a chance on me and helping me get to where I am, and I definitely would not be here if it wasn't for them. We were together for probably about 3 years or so. It's kind of got to the point where, everybody was kind of doing their own things, and we just decided to call it quits.
We were like acquaintances, but we didn't know each other very well. I got in touch with him and said, hey, I have some songs I'm working on. Check them out, see what you think.
I was like, yeah, sure, like, let's have a meeting.
I wanted to find a guitar player I knew, played everything very tight. He was able to represent ideas that I had very well, and Evan, a friend of mine from high school, did a great job at that. It was a matter of finding other musicians like him to fill in the second guitar part in the bass position, but that was a little bit harder.
My friend Noah ended up playing bass.
And so the guy Jeremy was playing guitar, so that was the first lineup.
So it was Tim, Jordan, Evan, Jeremy Rojas, and Noah Chase.
And then we found out about A Life Once Lost, which at that point was much more established than us, and so we had to change our name, and we eventually stumbled upon As I Lay Dying.
I know that Evan White, he was in college at the time and probably saw that book, As I Lay Dying, and that's where they got the idea for the name.
First As I Lay Dying show was in Valley Center, where I grew up, in the boonies. It's at a church. My friend Jesse actually put on the show.
They wanted to start playing some shows, and I booked them with some old Christian hardcore bands at a church.
In Southern California at that time, most of the shows that I knew about were at churches around here.
We weren't like, okay, this is Sunday morning service. It was like, hey, here's a concert, and we're gonna share our message also with the people, along with the bands.
When the band first started, I had a handful of ideas I presented to Jordan and said, this is the foundation of As I Lay Dying. Are you interested? And he was into the ideas, and we started moving forward from there, and our whole intention was just to write the best metal music that we could write. And being that Jordan and I were both Christians, it was something that would naturally influence our music and everything we do in life.
Jeremy Rojas played the first show a couple times after that, and that was it. They kicked him out after that. They went into his style of playing.
About 2 months after we'd been a band, we went in and recorded our first album.
Beneath the Encasing of Ashes, Tim wrote a lot of by himself.
I was just kind of a mediocre guitar player, but somebody who really enjoyed the songwriting side of things. I'll write songs and riffs that are maybe too difficult for me to play, but as long as I can write them, that's good enough.
Evan, I think, stepped in and really helped him arrange the songs and take just the raw riffs and polish it all and make it a package.
I just had this confidence knowing that he could play things that we had written as a band with precision.
Noah, our bass player at the time, I don't even think recorded bass on the record. I don't remember.
Evan played everything except for drums and singing, obviously.
We didn't really have like any sort of a signature sound, I guess. We were really influenced by this band called Zayo at the time, and a lot of the songs sound exactly like Zayo.
Every band doesn't have like a perfect vision in mind when they start the band. They just want to do what they love, and they kind of figure it out as they go, and that's, I think, exactly what happened with As I Lay Dying.
But it was awesome that they had a record out. They were the first band of all of our friends' bands to like get a real record out.
I actually personally paid for that release out of my pocket, and then once we signed to Pluto Records, in trade they gave us a lot of CDs, which we sold on the road, and I was able to pay myself back.
It sounds unconventional, but at the time it was certainly a normal kind of deal a lot of small labels were doing, which basically created a partnership with the band, so the band would have a little more motivation to make the band work instead of a label just giving them money and them, you know, not working very hard.
Society's Finest had a release on Pluto Records, and so I got in touch with him and told him about the new band.
He sent the demo, and it was a very professional little pack that said, "Dear Pluto Records, hey, it's Tim." We listened to it, we got him on the phone, and we made the deal that day.
They had that record put out for them before, you know, they'd even really played very many shows.
The first tour we went on was Jordan, myself, Evan, and one of my longtime friends, Tommy Garcia.
I filled in for Noah because he was like 17 and couldn't get the time off school. And I had just graduated high school.
Sometimes we had one guitar player, sometimes we had two.
We actually played a show as a three-piece on that tour.
Tim played bass and sang, and then Tommy played guitar, three-piece. It was awesome.
You know, we always wanted a second guitar player, but we weren't going to let it hold us back.
Depended on, you know, if we had a dude or not, you know?
We did a string of dates to go from California to the middle of the U.S. to Illinois and back. That was our first official tour. Sometimes we'd just play with local bands, sometimes we'd cross paths with other touring bands, but we just took what we could get so that we made it out to Cornerstone.
Cornerstone is a big Christian festival. It's in Bushnell, Illinois, which is out in the middle of nowhere. They generally have 20,000, 25,000 people show up.
We played a bunch of Cornerstone. We had one like stage slot. After that we just played like generator shows. I just played in the dirt.
People camping at the festival would bring generators and have these stages made out of 2x4s that they would put up, and if you signed up, they let you play these stages. And I actually think we paid like $15 or $30, something really cheap to be able to play these generator stages.
We were trying to play as much as we possibly could and like really like just get some people to come watch us, and maybe like some other bands that we thought were cool, maybe they would want to go on tour with us or whatever.
There's so many other bands in our position that like, you know, just try to help each other out, you know? Get shows and stuff, try to sell a couple t-shirts, get gas money.
I asked Jordan, I said, well, Jordan, how much money do you have, you know, for this 3 weeks? I mean, how are you going to eat and that kind of stuff? He goes, I got enough money. And I said, well, how much do you have? Just tell me. And he says, oh, I have $100. And I'm thinking, that's not enough.
We didn't really have a concept of what it took to be on the road, because our previous bands, while they wanted to tour, I don't think really ever did more than like weekend, you know, warrior type things.
So I just gave him a credit card and I said, if you need it, if you need to use it, let me know and do what you got to do. He didn't use it. He came back with 3 cents.
I didn't have any money, like zero. It was just like, get home, maybe have enough money to pay your cell phone bill.
I thought, man, this kid is really doing what he loves doing, and he's willing to sacrifice. He's willing to work hard.
Tim's parents and my parents definitely helped us out a lot when we first started.
I think the most important thing is the moral support, because sometimes when you have somebody behind you and you know that they're a black belt and they can kill people, it gives you courage. Just kidding. I'm a chicken, I'm not a black belt.
So our first tour was in Tim's parents' Suburban.
We lent him the Suburban, and how'd that work?
Well, they put a lot of miles on it, and it kind of came back trashed.
We decided to set out for tour in a Suburban because why not? We can all fit in there and we could fit our amps in there. But we never thought about, what do you do when it's an 8-hour drive and you got to sleep because you're driving overnight? And we never thought about any of that kind of stuff.
Tim's like driving, and then he just pulls up in this random spot and just like, this looks good. And so we literally just slept like we're sitting now, we just slept in the van like this, we're just like this.
We did the initial summer of 2001 tour out to Cornerstone and back, and when we returned from that, we were kind of itching to figure out when was the next time we could go out on tour. That was when Evan decided that while he had a good time on tour, he'd rather go back to school, and Jordan and I kind of pieced together friends of ours to help us fill in for the next tour.
The whole Christian metal, the underground scene
is pretty small. Like everybody kind of like knows each other, like pretty much. So if you were like available like to play, it's pretty much, hey dude, like move to a different state, let's do it.
There's another friend of ours, Ruben, who actually played for one tour.
Chris was on guitar, Ruben was on guitar, I was on bass.
We toured for 3 months, just kind of on the whim. And it was just kind of like, yeah, dude, $50. Yeah, man, like we'll play. The $100. Yeah, all right, that's cool. We'll play.
And then after that, Chris goes back to New Jersey.
When I left the band, Brandon took over.
I started playing bass and Tommy started playing guitar.
I switched over to guitar. Brandon filled my spot on bass, and Ruben stayed on guitar. That was the last tour Ruben did, was that one tour with that switch. And then Ruben and the band parted ways, and then I shortly after left, and then I filled in for them a couple times after that.
Ruben and Tommy went on and they did Please Mr. Gravedigger. Brandon stayed in the band, but I think he kind of did Please Mr. Gravedigger too, but he was on tour with As I Lay Dying a lot.
There was a lot of people that were in and out, you know? They would do one tour, not the other, and record here, not record there.
So we got home from tour in February, and everybody had quit the band except for Jordan and I. And that's when Jordan and I decided to record the split CD, and if As I Lay Dying broke up, at least we put out one last recording.
The contract was just for 2 records, a full length and an EP.
That EP was a split between us and some of our hometown friends, American Tragedy.
They were one of the bigger scene bands in San Diego.
We had gone out and done touring and put in a little bit more hard work outside of San Diego, so it was a good combination for us to gain the respect of our hometown, but also to help out hometown friends.
They brought Evan back. Evan had helped write some of the stuff, even though he hadn't been doing any of the touring or anything like that.
I never wrote anything, but I played bass on the split.
Tommy Garcia, who had filled in for bass for us and actually been part of the band for so many tours in the past, contributed a lot to a song called The Beginning.
I played guitar on a couple songs, as well as I sang backups on Forever.
They started to incorporate a lot of more melodic guitar parts.
That seemed to actually be a new musical direction for us that I think got our fans a little more excited.
They definitely grew as songwriters and performers, musicians.
When I think of As I Lay Dying starting out, I think of the American Tragedy split.
2002 in general was the heaviest rotation of band members. The lineup, I think, almost changed from tour to tour following that. Evan did a handful of more shows with us surrounding the release of the CD, and then the summer came around and Evan didn't want to do it, so then Brandon Hayes switched to guitar.
It was a couple years that I was a full-fledged member of the band.
He originally filled in for us playing bass and then became our bass player. And then a tour came up where we couldn't find a guitar player, so he said, all right, screw it, I'll go and play guitar instead.
Me and Chad both played guitar.
That was our friend Chad Ackerman, who now sings for Destroy the Runner.
One day, me and him were just chilling, and I was playing guitar, acoustic guitar actually, and he's like, dude, you should play guitar in my band. And I was like, you know, he's like, no, seriously. I was like, okay. And I've never really played electric guitar before or anything, but he's like, don't worry, I'll show you the ropes.
And then we looked for a bass player, and
so my friend Kalen played bass.
The tour that Chad went on was so much longer than the first tour I went on that we really got to experience a lot more.
It was me, it was Brandon Hayes, Kalen DiNuccio, Jordan Mancino, and Tim Lambesis.
First day of tour, we haven't left yet.
That was my first tour ever, so my first time being to all those different states.
This is the Atlantic Ocean? It's gonna be my first time setting foot in the Atlantic Ocean, man.
So this is officially the first time Chad has ever been to the Atlantic Ocean.
Definitely those first As I Lay Dying tours were the first time I really got to experience the country.
Today on tour, we are all going to see Niagara Falls. There's a weird, strange trucker. Oh wait, that's Jordan.
The buzz had been growing over the course of the last year with the first record, and their second record, The Split, with American Tragedy, had just come out in time for Cornerstone 2002.
It really means a lot that all you guys came and supported us, supported everyone, all the other tour bands. We'll be selling CDs right back behind the tent.
The label showcase that we had them on was a much bigger stage. It was in a big tent. The capacity was about 1,000.
That was the biggest show any of us had ever played. It definitely came as a surprise. At that point, 50 kids would be like a blessing.
We would play pretty much anywhere. We played a lot of basements in Cincinnati, or in one instance, a skate ramp.
We played on an enormous half pipe.
It's one of those things where because it's not a typical stage, nobody really knows like where their spot is to like stand, and everybody just kind of intermingles on the skate ramp, and we're just trying to rock out and have fun in our own way.
Kalen brought his bass up. Tim was right about, like, his head was here, and Kalen just went smack gashed Tim right in like the temple, I think it was.
To me, it didn't hurt, so I just thought, oh, I'll just keep going with it.
And blood just kept going all over his face, and blood was everywhere. And he told us, keep playing, keep playing. So we kept playing, and blood's running out of his face. It looked like something out of a horror movie.
After the show was over, a bunch of kids came up to me and said, that was the coolest thing ever, because every time you scream, a little bit more blood would kind of squirt out.
Kids thought it was so brutal.
A lot of the places we played we'd never been to before, didn't know anyone there, and you know, whether the promoter helped get us a place to stay or we just asked around and whoever would let us stay at their parents' house in their basement.
I used to say right before our last song, thank you guys so much. If anybody out there has a place where we can stay, we'd really appreciate it.
This guy comes up and he's like, got this beard, like out to here in overalls, and he's like, oh, you guys can stay at my place. And we're like, what? And he's like, you guys can stay at my place.
Tim's like, that's the dude. We're like, what the heck? And I remember actually having a conversation deciding whether it was safe to go with him or not.
This guy came up to us and was like, hey, you guys should stay with him. Like, he's famous. He's the best fiddle player ever. We're like, really? So we went with him.
Say hi, Bonnie.
Shout out to the camera.
Hey!
And we sat around his campfire while he just told us stories.
Me and my dad had a tap dance routine. We'd tap dance these campfires.
He was legit. He owned like 60 acres of land.
He had a recording studio there and tried getting us to drink some of his moonshine.
Because he owns the Moonshine Festival, he had all these hotel-type rooms that he was building, and none of them were built yet at that point. It was like staying on a wooden deck, pretty much.
Some nights we wouldn't even have a place to stay.
We are in Cleveland Heights, Ohio.
What is it, like 6 in the morning? 6 a.m.? You got here at 5:30?
We're like, let's make a movie, because we're all delirious. So we made a pirate movie.
Was I in this?
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
Shiver me timbers. They're coming to defend the treasure.
Let's go, Wart.
All right, Gout.
Arr, Mead. I got a long head in front of me, but I can see land at 80 paces. Arr, I'm all up and ready. Where you been? We all out of room.
I haven't seen it in probably like 4 years. It's got to be pretty hilarious.
You know what? I don't think I ever saw it in its completed state, so I'm up for a treat when this DVD finally comes out.
I did only one U.S. tour.
But after that tour, we realized it wasn't the right fit for him.
I think they're better off now because I've never really been that good of a guitar player. I'm okay at rhythm and stuff. I've always wanted to be a singer anyway.
Chad had left the band to start his own band where he was singing.
So they swung back to San Diego and picked up me and Evan. And me and Evan did the rest of that tour.
Tommy was just obviously filling in.
Evan was still playing guitar, and then they got Jason Krebs to play guitar.
I did 3 tours with them, I believe.
Everything that we had done was always either headlining or throwing together just DIY shows, playing with, you know, whatever local bands we could find.
Tim was really good about booking shows and like getting guarantees and stuff, so we always made enough to like get through everything, but didn't necessarily do really well.
We're gonna be on tour for like, I don't know, a little over 50 days or something. So really help us out if you guys want to buy a CD or a shirt or anything.
And he set up all the tours himself and put the merchandise together.
We had to kind of, tell them what they should ask to put on their rider and show them how to do a settlement sheet so no one ripped them off, because I was very worried about that for them, and guide them a little bit.
Our friend Alice, she became our friend. She used to run this place called The Scene, and she gave us some of our first legitimate shows in San Diego.
They were trying to get a booking, and they came in, and I gave them their shot, and the minute I saw them, I'm like, I love this band, and I'm gonna do whatever I can to help them.
Was the only promoter at the time, that would even give us the time of day,
I just look at them as these young kids that came in, and I don't think they really realized what talent they truly had, or maybe they did, but they were just so very humbled by it that they were very gracious in anything that was given to them or they were approached with, and they always took it in such a great professional manner.
When we started playing The Scene, there was more kids. We had 250 kids at one of our CD release shows for our split CD.
The buzz started getting out about us in San Diego.
And then as they came back, and after they came back again, and after they came back again, they would eventually sell out my room, which held 750 people.
I
I went on 4 tours, I believe, before I decided to leave.
Brandon Hayes had decided that musically he wasn't really into metal. Tommy and Brandon, to me, are kind of like the unsung heroes that kept As I Dying ticking in those early days. For about 2 years of our touring career, I mean, we wouldn't have been able to survive without the help of those two guys.
After me was Aaron from Tulsa.
It was Tim, Evan, Jason Krebs, Aaron was playing bass.
Evan had seen, the interest that we were getting as a result of touring and staying busy, and said, I think if we work hard and put together a bunch of press kits, we can send stuff out to labels and get signed, and it'd be fun to record an album that came out on a bigger label.
They had done an EP and a record before on a small label, so they were used to doing stuff themselves anyway. I think they had started the next project and were still looking around, and that's when we had heard them.
Where we literally just put together press kits, sent them out to labels, and waited for people to call us back.
There was 3 labels that were kind of fighting for us.
The label that interested us the most was Metal Blade, who had never really done anything outside of like the traditional metal sound.
We had a lot of these mainstays like Hannibal and Fate's Warning, and bands that had been with us for a long time.
They almost sent it as a joke. Like, they didn't really think that they would sign him. They just thought it was a cool label,
It wasn't, I guess, a joke sending it to him, but it was just kind of like random, like kind of laughing about it. Like there's no way they would ever get back to us.
Throughout the history of Metal Blade, we always look for something interesting and different. And these guys came along at the perfect time with an interesting, unique sound that was different than everything else.
They came to us around the same time as Black Dahlia. I think Metal Blade was kind of going through a little bit of a renaissance, and we felt that it was really important that we start picking up a new crop of kids. So they came in that first wave of new crop of kids.
And there was something there that caught us. The sound, the musicianship, the dynamics of the songs. It just wasn't from front to back. A slaughterhouse. There was dynamics in the band. I'm going, boy, this is really good.
Well, we sent them a press back full of like bio, tour dates that we've done.
There was probably 5 or 6 pages worth of tour dates, with the cover page being a picture of our van.
And they said that was kind of a clincher for them.
Showing me the van and trailer tells me that this band is ready to do whatever it takes to go out on the road and help us sell records and break a band.
You could tell that there was something going on there. They weren't very polished at the time, but that's one thing that Slagle's always been really good at, is finding the diamond in the rough, as it were.
It's just a gut instinct for me. Like I could put a CD on and listen to 30 or 40 seconds and know whether I like it or not. And with their thing, I put it in, it sounded fresh and interesting and different, and I was like, we absolutely should sign this band immediately, quickly.
I couldn't believe it when Tim called me. Like, dude, we got an offer from Metal Blade. I'm like, no way. I told everybody.
We sold ourselves to the band that we were the right place to be, that we were committed to them, and that we believed in their vision.
There was this big, long process at the end of 2002, leading up all the way into 2003, while we were writing Frail Words Collapse. And in that writing process, we were working out the details of getting signed.
Just because we wanted to get in, put the record out by summer, and so we were kind of like, us and Metal Blade were in a hurry.
We didn't want to postpone the album waiting for the business side of things. We creatively, we were ready to go. We recorded Frail Words Collapse at Big Fish, which is a studio near where we live in San Diego.
Evan recorded all the guitars and all the bass.
Then Evan did, at that point in the band, start to contribute a little bit more sort of songwriting.
A lot of the times Tim would come up with a riff, bring it to the table, or Evan would come up with a riff and bring it to the table. There'd be a drum beat. It was kind of different all the time, but the mastermind behind a lot of it was Tim.
There's a couple songs in particular on that album I'm really proud of the input from other guys that had played in the band.
Yes, I wrote one song on the first As I Dying record. I didn't write the whole song, I just wrote one riff of one song, the opening riff of Behind Me Lies Another Fallen Soldier.
There's a whole bunch of singers that sang on it. I happened to sing the part on Forever. There was another guy who was in the band, Jared, really great guitarist, sang on one of the songs in Frail Words Collapse.
I sang on Distance is Darkness, and I think that's the only 2 songs we singing on them.
I screamed backups on Forever and on the first song on the record.
Jason Krebs, who did record some leads on the album, contributed to the last song on Frail Words Collapse, which is Elegy.
First tour for Frail Words Collapse. I kind of knew something was up, but I really didn't know. They said it would probably be in the best interest of the band and me, not for me not to continue with As I Dying.
I replaced Jason Krebs on guitar.
It was Aaron, Chris, Evan, Tim, and Jordan.
We had started touring in the summer of 2003.
A guy, Aaron, that was playing bass at the time, wasn't into it, wanted to go home.
Right in the middle of that tour, we needed a bass player.
I played in a band in Texas called Fontaine.
The first time As I Dying toured to Texas with me and the band, the very first time, we met with Clint.
We were like a pop rock band, and I really wanted to sing. That was actually my passion more, was singing. And so we had 2 guitar players in the small town of Abilene. We couldn't find anybody that played bass or even liked the kind of music that we wanted to play. So they were like, man, will you play guitar? Like, it's just 2 less strings and they're fatter. So you should maybe try to play bass. So I just basically picked it up and, you know, never really took lessons or learned from anyone. I just played, you know, along with the music.
It was funny because Clint wasn't a huge metal fan to begin with. He was just really passionate about playing and touring.
We knew he could play bass and sing. We just didn't know if he would quite fit a metal band.
I had emailed Tim and told him that Fontaine had broken up, and if anyone needed a bass player or even a singer or both at the same time, to let me know.
And I said, well, it's funny that you asked because we actually need a bass player.
I mean, we ended up picking up Clint mid-tour.
There's only a few days left with Aaron until we got to Oklahoma, and we actually were going to play his hometown, which was going to be his last show.
So it was me and Aaron Kennedy, like, hey dude, because he was on tour with him still, and there were 4 shows that I really needed to practice before I could actually play live.
We were a little nervous at first because it took him longer to learn the songs than we had originally thought, but by the time we actually started playing shows with him, he did a great job.
You know, we thought he sounded good live, and he could sing and play bass well.
It seems like immediately when I joined that tour, I felt like I was like part of the family.
It was Chris, Evan, Clint, Tim, and Jordan.
We told Clint, we're like, yeah, well, you know, we'll give it 6 months, just do your thing, and, you know, and then we'll figure it out then.
When I was filling in for that summer, I kind of didn't really actually think like, oh man, I hope I join this band, or I wonder what they're thinking. I just felt like it was such a good time.
So Clint joined the band probably during the most active point in our touring history.
I think those tours lasted pretty much like 6 months straight. We didn't really have like too much downtime.
After the summer of 2003, we did a fall tour with Haste.
At that point, I was just like, guys, I want to step down from playing guitar. I want to just focus on my relationship right now, get married.
And so in the middle of that tour, we had to find somebody to replace him, and that's when Phil first came out and joined the band at the very end of that tour with Haste.
We knew Phil from this band Tomra that he was in, local band that like had played shows with us a couple times.
I started Tomra in, I think, 2001. Tim wore a Tomra shirt for the 94 Hours video, and we're like, oh, like, our shirt's on MTV, like, this is so cool.
They were one of the San Diego bands that was on the rise and kind of showing potential.
We were stoked to play shows with them when we did. You know, we'd play shows and then we'd be in the mosh pit, like singing along with their songs.
And As I Lay Dying was always energetic, and that's something that Tomra tried to like model from them, is just having an energetic live show. Tomra played a show with As I Lay Dying at the Scene.
That was when As I Lay Dying, I think, was first like blowing up in San Diego.
I was talking to somebody, I don't know if it was Joe or somebody, but they were like, Phil's really, really good at the guitar. And they were like, no, Phil's really good. He's As I Lay Dying good. It was like this notch, like in San Diego, to be like good enough to play in As I Lay Dying.
They had gone through so many band members that it was just like, that window was bound to open up again, and I was just like, just waiting. And then all of a sudden, you know, Tomra stopped playing.
So we called him up and like see if he wanted to come out on tour, fly out, learn all the songs, and jump in mid-tour, like, you know, like it's happened before with Clint. He's like, yeah, sure.
I quit community college, I quit my job, and told my parents I had to leave in 2 days, and my dad like didn't even like hesitate. He's like, yeah, if that's what you want to do, go for it.
He was like 17 when he joined.
We decided to have Phil fly out to New York to meet up with us where we were on tour.
I wouldn't necessarily play my first show in 2 days, but I'd be on tour with them for a week.
Since we were in New York, which is where Chris was from, Chris pulled him aside as soon as he got off the flight.
Hey man, like, I'm done, like tomorrow, like, you know what I mean, like that's it, like so you're on, like you got to be playing like the shows now.
They're just kind of like looking at me like, oh man, I don't know if you're ready.
And Phil was like so determined that he's like, okay, cool, I'm ready.
I grabbed my guitar and I instantly just started going over like the riffs.
He was like determined he was gonna learn the whole set in one night.
Surely enough, it was a joke.
Ha ha, Phil.
He started playing for us about a week later.
Now Phil's in the band. Well, what about the first show, though?
The settings on the preamp got reset somehow after Chris's last show the night before. So it was just kind of like, why would he do that? Why would he do that to me, to us, to the band?
Yep, I sabotaged him.
Plugs in his guitar and just rings out, and it's all clean.
There was no volume, there was no, bass, treble, gain, or anything.
Dude, if you're just a good enough guitar player, you can make that sound heavy, Phil.
Yeah.
Come on.
Distortions in the fingers. Looking back on it, it was a pretty funny joke. Even though just that made matters, worse for me.
In late 2003, opening for 6 Feet Under was the first real support tour we'd ever done, and we actually got to play for a new audience.
We were opening up for 6 Feet Under, Behemoth, and Skimless.
This is my first exposure to like death metal shows.
We want you guys to have fun and move around. We're not used to these, we're not used to these death metal shows.
As I Lay Dying's fan base is basically all ages. So when the opportunity came through for them to play in San Diego on the 6 Feet Under tour, which was all 21 and up, I went ahead and took the opportunity to book them in front of the 21 and up crowd. They were unfamiliar with them, though. They had never really heard of them.
Crowd reactions kind of hit or miss.
It was more like a buzz about the band than it was like a huge following.
But it was still a good tour. I think we made a couple fans.
Yeah, I like to believe that it was of somewhere. I hope that if anybody watching this DVD saw us on that 6 Feet Under tour, we really appreciated our fans back then.
Thank you guys. We're not only dying. Remember the time when you saw us and they wouldn't even let us use the whole stage? That would go down.
I'd never been so nervous performing before. It took me a while to start moving around and kind of feeling confident enough to play and move. It was fun when I first came out. I was like, man, these are like great guys. And then after I joined, 3 weeks later, Evan quit. Since I heard about As I Lay Dying, Evan was always the constant guy in the band.
Just as much as Tim and Jordan had been the core members, Evan was that third core member for a very long time.
He actually didn't do the majority of our original tours, even though he was a band member at the time.
He was in and out like 3 times.
It was a weird time for him. He'd wanted to do a lot of other things in his life, and As I Lay Dying really didn't seem to fit into what, his lifestyle that he wanted to create.
Being on the road and all that stuff, it's really exhausting and hard work, and so I think that he left because of some of the emotional stuff that was going on.
His mom had passed away, so he had left one of the tours and really decided to take care of that kind of stuff, and I'm sure that was a huge process for him to go through.
He'd gone through a difficult breakup back home and had just kind of a lot of tough personal things going on.
It was an emotional time, and it was something I felt like was needed for him, but at the same time it was really sad for me to see him go,
We found this guy, Mark, to fill in for the rest of the 6 Feet Under tour.
He had his own band and still does called Mercury Switch, and he's from New Hampshire, and so he made it clear that he would fill in for us as long as we needed until we found somebody, but that he had a loyalty to his friends back home, and I actually respect him tremendously for that.
Thank goodness he was there to fill in, because we wouldn't have been able to finish the tour. We didn't even go home. We started the Chimera tour like right after that tour.
With Soil Work and Bleeding Through.
We couldn't believe that they would want to take us out on tour. I remember Jordan Mancino just like, Chimera wants to take us on tour? Us?
Mark, say what's up to the cam.
What's up to the cam?
Mark from Chimera.
And I think the first thing we asked them was like, hi, I'm Clinton. Do we get tour laminates? We really want those, And they're like, oh yeah, we got those for you. We're like, no way.
That was amazing. That was like the best tour we had done, and the clubs were packed.
That tour was such a huge thing for us, and it got us a lot of cred as far as doing bigger tours.
The crowd was very receptive to what we were doing, and it was great.
And we were still looking for a permanent guitar player.
Mark was filling in for us, and he was talking about this friend he had from Texas who might be a good match.
Nick Hippa played for a band called Evelyn.
Being in
that band broadened my horizons as far as the way I looked at music and just thinking.
A lot of dissonant chords and crazy stuff, shredding going on the whole time.
Spastic arrangements. And I would cite like Meshuggah and Dillinger Escape Plan as our biggest influences at that time. We were just like a sloppier version of both of those bands.
I'd seen their shows before, just growing up in Texas and being around that whole scene.
Evelyn was on Pluto Records, which was the record label that As Lay Dying was on.
We already had toured with him, knew he was like a really awesome dude and a good guitar player. So we were pretty confident that he could fill the part perfectly.
During that Chimera tour, Nick came to one of the Texas shows.
Jordan was like, what are you up to, you know? I told him that Evelyn had just broken up and that I was probably gonna start something or just looking for something. And he's like, yeah, like our guitar players just quit. And then they're like, this is Phil, like he's gonna play guitar for us too.
It's really funny looking back on just like, wow, that was the first time I met Nick.
We asked him like, hey, like, you wanna play?
And I was like, I don't know, you know, maybe.
Because he was going to school at the time and he was almost finished. But anyways, somehow we convinced him.
He's like, dude, we might go to Europe next year. And I was like, really? The idea of going to a foreign country to play music, you know, it was enough for me to be like, maybe I'll put school on hold. And so he gave me Frail Where It's Collapsed, which had just come out. And I remember listening to it and just being like, whoa, they got a lot better.
Nick flew out at the end of the Chimera tour.
Phil came over to Tim's house where I was staying and we just played the guitar parts together.
I think it was literally like one practice before we played a show.
Congrats, sir. Wait, can you do one of those like disappearing things where you like turn it off and then you turn it back on? The first run of shows that I ever did with them started at the Whiskey in LA, and that was like just a West Coast 5 or 6 day run with 3 Inches of Blood and Deny, If Hope Dies.
I saw Nick's very first show with the band. I remember that really well because he was just a bundle of nerves.
The first show I ever played with them was a train wreck.
You know, what do you expect from someone with one practice? You know, it's like, he knew all the songs. It was just stressful. It was LA.
Everyone was there. Slagle, Faley.
Nah, he didn't blow it on his first night, you know, going in there. But he did get razzed a lot.
There's something to be said about playing with everyone in the practice room and then like getting familiar with each other live. And after that show, I was just like, okay, some stuff I can work on.
The Chain Reaction in Anaheim, California. Show's sold out. It's been sold out, and like kids are trying to get in. There's a line. It's pretty sweet.
After that, we did Sworn Enemy.
And Himza, and With Honor. Phil was like, hey, you want to come and sell merch? I didn't have much to do, so I was like, yeah.
Baby Joe and Brandon Peterson actually came out as our first real crew. Brandon Peterson was my friend from Texas. I really wanted to bring him on tour with us because he's my best friend.
Brandon was like 6'9", I'm 5'4", so like the two crew members were like the tallest and smallest guys. It was like Mac and me. It was great because, you know, just playing with these guys from New York, and they're all from Queens, you know. And they have these crazy voices. Yeah, you can't even understand them.
Are you kidding me? I gotta do this. I gotta do this.
Getting to know them and being a part of that tour like changed a lot of the way I felt about touring. They definitely influenced us to stick to what we knew was true and right and what we believed.
And they also opened up our eyes to gambling.
Yeah, CeeLo.
You automatically win if you get 4, 5, 6?
Yeah,
that's it. Oh.
We're like, whoa, this is the greatest game I've ever learned in my life.
I know. Everybody do dollar bets. It was small stakes. And then it started getting up to $5 rolls. And then Paulie and Joe started getting out of hand. They started doing like $20 rolls, then they do $50 rolls. And then that's when they started losing money and making money.
I was too busy winning money.
Our set's about to start. We gotta go on stage. Him's just tearing down.
Jordan's not feeling it.
We knew after that tour they were going to need to have management in place to take the band to a next level.
Tim at the time was helping book the tours, help routing the tours.
Clint was kind of tour managing, and that was like, can we get our guarantee? Can we get water or something like that?
I personally couldn't take care of all the business because being a band member and somebody so involved with planning of our tours and all that stuff, just naturally little business things, we're gonna fall through the cracks. It's just too much to do, and so we decided to pick up management.
Tim did a good job because the band got to a certain level just based on, you know, his decision making.
When they finally needed to have a manager, we had plenty of time to really go out and kind of do the vetting process of really finding the right people.
We met Vaughn Lewis and Kenny Gabor for the first time, and they wined and dined us, took us to a fancy little Ruby Tuesday.
I was trying to put ketchup on my fries and it just squirted all over my shirt, and it was like completely unrepairable. It wasn't like one of those where you just kind of put a little water on it. It was just like, I kind of had a choice of making a big fuss over it or just kind of moving on, and I just kind of was like, whatever, and we just kept talking. I mean, they all had a little laugh about it.
I'm thinking to myself, that's it, these guys think we're idiots, we're not going to get this band.
Just chilling at Strong Management, the headquarters. Hey, Kenny, what's up, man? What's going on?
Hello, I gotta run.
They just seemed like they took a very humble approach to managing bands, and you know, we've always tried to take a humble approach to our music and touring and what we do and the decisions that we make.
We had a little bit more trust in Vaughn and Kenny going into it.
They weren't blowing smoke up our patooties, you know, like when they were meeting with us, like promising us all these big tours and things like that.
We suggested to them that they not stress over Ozfest that summer and build their profile a little bit more so that when they did do Ozfest, they could do it not just as any band, but as a bigger band and get a better slot.
If this happened a year and a half from now, you know, maybe there wouldn't be those buy-ons and those expenses that normally come with tours like that.
So I think that made us stand out a little bit.
And we started working with Nick Storch.
Nick Storch, who we knew at the time pretty well, was a prominent booking agent.
This is the guy that's in charge of our schedule and our lives, you know, like more than we are of our own, it sometimes seems.
Then having us on board and just, you know, the team starting to take shape, I think it was finally some level of stability that they were feeling.
Yeah, up until that point, there definitely was a little bit of fluctuation with band members.
The fans that have been there from the beginning, I think we're getting tired of all the lineup changes and new faces.
You'd see them twice in the summertime and there would be a different lineup.
We had no pictures in our CDs at the time because we had so many member changes.
It was a very long road until we eventually had a full and consistent band of people.
I remember being at Evan's birthday party one year and being like, there are like 10 current or ex-members of As I Lay Dying here.
Ruben, Tommy,
Jeremy Rojas,
Brandon,
Mark,
Noah Chase,
Aaron from Tulsa,
Evan White.
There's even more. Chad, Kalen,
Jason Krebs.
Man, I am blanking on his name right now.
Hardcore Chris.
I kind of remember Jared.
We have to sit down and do a timeline.
Geez, there's more like that I don't even know about, I think.
Very Spinal Tap-ish.
And it wasn't until early 2004 that we finally had 5 people who were committed to touring in this band.
Yeah, when Nick and Phil came in, that really solidified the band. Those guys definitely upped the ante in terms of playing, songwriting, everything else.
We wrote our first song under the new lineup.
And that song was Through Struggle.
Through Struggle got a little bit of play on tour and had, you know, different lyrics and everything back then.
The Every Time I Die tour was the first time we introduced Through Struggle to the set.
We did a co-headline tour with Every Time I Die.
Scarlet opened, Black Dahlia was second of 4, and then us and Every Time I Die flip-flopped half the tour.
And I think that's when they started to come out of their shell a little bit more. You know, As I Lay Dying was a lot more comfortable. They were drawing bigger crowds.
25 of the 30 shows were sold out.
We're just like, no way. We're co-headlining and there's like this many people coming out. This is insane.
The first show was sold out in advance, but there were so many kids walking up to the show that we did 2 shows in one night.
They weren't even concerned if both shows sold out. They were more concerned that everybody that was there got to see it.
That's that's when you knew that something special was going on, not only with As I Lay Dying, but the scene.
The scene just blew up. It was nuts, absolutely nuts.
We had a week of off-date shows, just headlining on our own. Then we started the Killswitch in Flames tour.
Whoa, look how big our name is on this flyer, dude.
The Killswitch in Flames tour was the very first time that we had toured with Killswitch Engage.
Howard, if you hit me, I don't know, I'll find something. Yeah, so what? No, I don't know.
We hung out with them, became really, really good friends with those dudes.
Have fun, dude.
Jordan, dude, I love you, dude.
What the? Yeah, what's up, man? Howard, quit with the mean mug, dude. Alright, I'm gone. What's up, Jesper? Yeah, nothing. You were about to X me out, weren't you? There's Phil, Happy.
As they gradually got bigger, they needed more help, and they asked me to be their guitar tech, and I was like, yeah, you know, I'll be your guitar tech.
And I just wanted to go out, so I had some extra money, and I was like, I'll go out for free. But actually, I wouldn't have called myself a tech because I didn't do anything techy. I just kind of like helped out, you know?
Hi, my name is Nick. Can you film a little bit of me jamming tonight with the set? Just one song, please.
There's a In Flames tour bus, there's a Killswitch Engage tour bus, there's our tour bus. Our tour bus is much better.
We were in a van right after we got married with 7 guys or so. I did merch. It was definitely character building. I mean, I had never even camped, let alone traveled in a van, you know, for 3 months at a time.
Everybody was poor. We just slammed into some small van with a whole bunch of stinky dudes.
100 degrees. We stacked tons of blankets on poor little Joe. This is probably going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back, because this is going right on his face. Ow! He kicked me in the face, dude.
Since there were such brutal drives, we decided to have driving partners, and someone had to pick a partner, and that was for the whole tour. You would rotate so that one time someone would drive, the next time someone would drive. So if you drove, you had the first pick of music.
Clint, what's up, dude?
What's up, dude? It's iPod.
iPod? This guy back here, this guy was...
Best shotgun buddy.
Oh, man. Every time, like, I'd be driving, like, I look over and Phil's Phil is sleeping, as usual. He's a very effective shotgun partner.
I was Joe's shotgun partner. There's this certain loyalty. It's like, dude, you're not in this alone, man. I'm here with you.
He would drive for, like, I'm not even exaggerating, 5 minutes. He'd turn on all this metal and he'd start headbanging to try to keep himself up.
You can't fall asleep and headbang at the same time. It's possible.
Yeah. I remember I'd watch movies and he'd be looking like, oh, what are you watching? Like, watching the movie, and I'm like, you need to pay attention to the road.
The summer of '04 was the last tour we did for our U.S. fans in support of Frail's collapse.
The goal then was to try to get over to Europe.
We did a few dates by ourselves in Germany where we headlined.
And then we went and did 3 weeks with Lamb of God in the UK.
And that was the first time we'd ever been overseas.
Hi guys, we're in Europe right now. There's no toilet seat on the toilet! You simply take a wipe and then another wipe. It's legitimate to sit on.
In Europe, there are these public, and when I say public, I mean out on the street, urinals.
Downwards. This is a public urinal in London.
They were fit, contoured towards your body, which I don't know why anyone would want to get that close with their member.
Pissing on the street, that's what we do.
I think me, more so than anyone else, was just so excited to be in another country.
We're roaming around some dark place that's pretty sweet looking. Where are we? The freaking Scottish graveyard. Whoa.
As soon as we would get there, I just kind of hit the ground running. Even if I would be in kind of a no-name city, I was just like, whoa, this is so crazy. And I was just like taking pictures of everything and buying little souvenirs for my family and stuff.
Dude, when do you guys want to get under there?
Yeah.
On the tour in Europe with Lamb of God, Throwdown was with us, and one of the sightseeing things that we did that blew my mind was Stonehenge.
We got Ben right here.
One of these.
Brothers and Throwdown.
Take a picture of this for the Stonehenge, dude? And Phil was in his bunk. He's like, dude, we're at Stonehenge, let's go. He's like, And I was like, all right, I'll see you in there. We all did Stonehenge, and we came back, and Phil was still in his bunk. I was like, are you kidding me? Have you seen Stonehenge yet?
I've been trying to go the past few years. I realized my mistake.
But you've seen Spinal Tap, so
I've seen, yeah.
This is our second day ever in Germany. We're very happy to be here. Thank you so much for coming out.
I had no idea that people had even heard of us there. I think we played to like 400 or 500 people headlining, and they were stoked.
We wanted to say sorry we did not bring enough shirts and things like that. We had no idea what to expect, and this has been so much greater than we ever thought. So thank you so much, and sorry about that.
We played every song that we knew or that we were comfortable playing live, and then they asked for an encore, and then we played a couple songs we normally don't play live, and then when those songs were done, they called for another encore.
Frailwords Collapse was doing really well at that point.
The first week sales were 900, which to us at the time, it was a huge deal because we would do entire tours and only sell 900 CDs.
Then we sold 3,000 copies in 1 week, and then 1,000 a week, 2,000 a week after that, and just kept going. We're just like, what the heck is going on?
That's when we really started to notice, wow, something's starting to happen with this band, and it's happening on its own.
By the end of 2004, we had sold 100,000 copies almost.
We have been home for a little bit to write for a new CD that will come out in June.
Immediately after the first ever European tour for us, we got home and started writing Shadows Our Security.
We wrote the record really quick.
Phil was a big part of that record because he had been writing the whole time we were on tour.
Phil was like riff machine. He had a lot of riffs.
Tim and I got together, and it was just, hey, how about this riff? How about this riff? Should I just go? So, did it. Nothing. Did it.
You should play the chugs through the first time, but not through the second time. Nick would show up at my house and be there while we were kind of jamming out these ideas, but I think he was much newer to the band and was kind of just getting a hang for things.
It was mostly done at Tim's house, and then we'd practice it in Jordan's bedroom in his parents' house.
The drums were at our house, so we got to know all these guys.
I had my bed over there, maybe a desk I think I had right there, and then we'd put guitar cabinets over here, and then my drum set would come out to here. And that was about it.
Jordan sleeps like a log, so he would pretty much sleep until we showed up for rehearsal.
Tim would like knock on my window to wake me up because I wouldn't wake up.
So he had like that 30-second warning before, you know, we came barging into his room ready to turn up our amps on 10.
We recorded Shadows Our Security at the same place that the band recorded Frailwords Collapse, which was at Big Fish Studios in Encinitas with Steve Russell, who worked on Frailwords Collapse as well.
Here's the real key to recording. It's the bathroom. Of course, with the snake cables plugged in case you want to record anything that's happening on the can. Those are some of the key sounds that we used for all of our records.
I tracked all the rhythm guitars, and Nick came in and did his leads over it.
And Phil recorded bass as well.
They were writing a lot of songs in the studio. They were finishing up songs overnight before the next day they were going to record them in the studio.
Because we didn't have this time to be able to teach everybody all these individual parts, we presented more or less like completed songs and then just worked out kinks and details as a band.
We had our friend Dave Arthur come in and do a lot of the backing vocals.
I don't have this powerful, commanding vocals.
Clint's got a nice voice, but it wasn't as strong in the studio, so the idea was just kind of like blend the two together.
Once the mixing process came around, it was just like Clint's vocals aren't even meshing with Dave's, so just have Dave's as the dominant, clean vocal mix.
When Shadows Our Security dropped, it sold 32 or 33,000 the first week.
Which was absolutely insane.
I think that caught all of us off guard.
Shadows debuted, I believe, at 35 on the Billboard chart. It was also the #1 independent album in the country.
Just like, hey Gramps, like check it out, we're on the Billboard Top 40. So it's cool that I don't go to college anymore, right? Shadows Our Security was definitely the album where the band started to go to the next level.
I am pretty proud of what we did, but at the same time, I was like, the songs could be better. Like, it could always be better, you know?
Shadows is a very mature record for, you know, only the band's second record. Just a big, mature, sophisticated sounding metal record.
With songs like Confined and Darkest Nights and Through Struggle, they're like still heavy and aggressive, but there was something like catchier. And I think it appealed to metal fans, but also people that kind of weren't completely immersed in our genre of music, like they could appreciate it.
It's also the first moment where the rest of the industry really started to kind of take notice. This was a band that was making moves and doing things and had a lot of people that were really diehard into the band.
The first tour we did after the release of Shadows of Security was Ozfest 2005.
That was a big deal. Like, our record came out. That was a really big tour. I mean, Sabbath, Maiden, like, it was amazing.
Ozfest is such a historical thing as far as that kind of music goes.
Some of the bands I had known, like Black Sabbath, they were with them.
Yeah, I mean, I listened
And we
to
were
those
kind of
bands.
like, wow. I mean, that was the first time I realized they really had gotten big, I think was when they toured with Ozfest.
We actually did a tour with bands that she had heard of, you know, and like listened to when she's growing up.
We were really honored to be one of the side stage headliners. You know, there's 3 non-rotating bands at the end of the day.
Excited that we didn't have to play at 9 in the morning. Didn't have to rotate, so we're like, yes.
Mastodon, you know, who played right before us, like those guys were awesome and they killed it every day.
Then Killswitch played after us, then Rob Zombie.
Whenever we're on a tour with guitar players that I think are sick, I love just observing them, watching how they do what they do, and hopefully we'll learn something.
All right, here's Master.
I was stoked on Ozfest because of Iron Maiden. I got the Trooper tattooed after Ozfest. Just such an epic song. I told everyone, I was like, I'm gonna catch Steve Harris's wristband.
And Phil catches it.
Some guy tried stealing it from me and I was just like, not having it. I just like put it on my arm as fast as possible and was just like, get off of me. Ozfest is like the metal crowd, and they're the hardest to please. If you're like a young band, it's very intimidating.
While the pressure was on us, I think we did step it up. It was the first tour where we incorporated a bigger production and filled the stage.
And we had a lot of people doing a lot of things for us on that tour. We had like more crew with us. We had a guitar and bass tech, we had a drum tech, we had front of house, we had a tour manager. And so we decided it was time more for space to get a bus.
I love being in a van, you know, but when you start having like 10 people in a van, it gets pretty rough.
Being on a bus was something I never even thought would come to real life. I mean, it opened up a whole new world to us.
Moonshine, that's what the name of our first bus was.
That was the big relief when they got to have a bus. Then they had bad bus drivers.
We had this really old, ailing bus driver.
We called him Captain Moonshine.
Always seemed like he was about to keel over. He was always leaning, like, yeah, guys.
He was turning yellow, like, on the tour, and his eyes were, like, sinking back into his skull.
And we really wanted him to get medical attention, but he didn't.
I think his words were, I don't want to go to a doctor because they'll tell me I can't drive a bus anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, good answer.
And we had some crazy adventures with him.
He heavily relied on
GPS. Pretty much just did whatever GPS told him to do, and in one instance, GPS told him to go on this crazy dirt road that would save him about 15 minutes.
Well, he took a shortcut up a goat route.
Tim woke me up. He's like, hey, we just looked out our window and it just kind of goes down. I don't see any road on the other side of the bus. What are you talking about?
I noticed I was rocking back and forth, face against the wall, face against the curtain, face against the wall, face against the curtain.
You know, to the driver, I'm like, where are we?
And he's like, this is the last beep beep time I ever try to use MapQuest to find out where we're going.
You didn't think to take a main road? You just wanted to take the dirt one? Did you notice after you went about 10 feet into the dirt that maybe we shouldn't go this way?
Open the curtain, look out the window. Is a cliff right along the side of the tire.
There wasn't very much room between the tire of the bus and where it dropped off.
Scared to death, have no idea where we are.
On our way from Salt Lake City to where? Flagstaff, Arizona.
We ended up coming to this portion, kind of went down and then started going up a big hill. So the guy was like, okay, I got to start building some speed. Started building some speed.
Slower, slower.
I remember hearing the screeching of the brakes.
Jeez. And we're like, there's no way we stopped. If we stop, we can't get back up. There's no way.
He tried to charge his way through it, didn't make it.
So we started sliding backwards towards this ravine to our deaths.
And the trailer jackknifed into a sand dune.
Oh, man.
Completely bent the trailer entirely sideways and jammed it into the side of the hill.
Oh man, look at the trailer.
My body was like this, like I was like falling out of my bunk.
All we think about is this thing right here.
So we're thinking we're sliding to our deaths. But luckily for us, the trailer jackknifed, like the bus got stuck by that.
The bar connecting the trailer to the bus was literally underneath the bus.
Lucky us, only our trailer broke.
Yeah, our trailer saved
that we
our
had
lives.
just bought for that tour. We spent $5 grand on a trailer, but it saved our lives.
Maybe there's a city at the end of this hill. Let me go check. Bummer. How do you feel about this, Phil?
Feeling pretty good.
I like
Just
it too.
woke up and checking out the sweet view. You know, we should be thankful that we get stuck out here. We get to enjoy this moment of clarity. Actually, this is probably the worst thing that's ever happened to us. Because we're stranded out here and we have no cell phone service and the car has not driven by.
And we figured the only way to get out of this with the jackknife trailer on the skinny road is to unload the trailer to let out some of the weight so the bus can actually make it up the hill.
That was a fun time.
While they're unloading the trailer and whatnot, I'm just out here looking for snakes. So, because if someone gets bitten, we're screwed because we don't have cell phone service or anything. So one of us is going to have to suck the poison out or they're going to die.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Or there could be a snake enforcer.
We unloaded the trailer, finally got enough weight out.
And literally picked up the trailer and moved it.
1, 2, 3. Oh, that's easy. It's working.
Push the trailer back into position with the bus.
After numerous attempts, made it all the way up the hill. So it's like, yes, the bus works, we can get out of here.
But all the gear was at the bottom of the hill.
Someone said something about, oh, maybe they're like random Indians will come and like help us, you know?
Yeah.
Sure enough.
Random Indians.
Dude, Indians like show up like driving and they're like, what are you guys doing out here?
You guys are out like 30 or 40 miles out here. Maybe
both ways?
20s. Yeah, you're in the middle.
30 to 40 miles. We're in. Dang it.
And they're like, you guys better hurry up because there's a storm brewing.
Rain is coming.
Oh, it is?
He's like, yeah, and I know that. I'm like, how?
How do you know that? Because I'm an Indian.
You do a rain dance?
We're like, okay.
It was kind of one of those things like, seriously, could anything more go wrong? And the next thing would go wrong.
Those Indian-looking dudes, they told us that we wouldn't make it past this hill because there's like, apparently the road is flooded. I don't know how in the desert.
Well, basically, we have to get this thing through there. Supposedly, cars barely make it through, so we're about to get some boxes, try to lay it down.
The bus had to like gun it through this turn.
Oh, great.
course, we didn't make it. So we had to put like sticks and rocks and cardboard boxes underneath
Started getting creative.
tires to get leverage to get out.
8 dudes pushed the bus and a fully loaded trailer out of the mud. It was awesome.
This is the aftermath. We finally got out of the mud.
Doesn't it feel like a beach day right now?
Yeah.
Gross.
Best day off of our lives.
Oh, and what makes it all worse is that where we were staying, there was supposed to be a water park. So we're just like, oh, we're gonna hit up a water park today. It's gonna be sweet.
Gonna go see a movie.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody remembers this. The driver, he's like, I'm gonna get you guys all a steak dinner. And then he totally never did it.
He didn't.
I want my steak dinner.
He just went right to bed as soon as we got to the hotel.
A couple months after Ozfest, towards the end of 2005, the plan was to end the year with a full headline tour, the first real headline tour in the U.S., period.
The Shadows, our security tour with Norma Jean, Madball, and Life Once Lost. They're all like great live bands, and to play after those bands, we're like, what if everyone leaves, before we play, or what if these bands just completely own us every night?
They were booking us in venues that were huge, and we're like, oh, I don't know if we can draw this many people or not.
So we were the worst sound checking band in the history of the world. It takes forever.
I'm not getting anything up here. Check! Yeah, because there's no microphone.
Tonight is the first night of our headlining tour. First jitters. I get jitters every show, but more so for the first one. And it's like our first real headlining tour, and it's just very, very scary,
I'm a little worried that everything's gonna kind of settle into reality, because everything's been a lot better than we ever thought.
We've done smaller markets here and there, but nothing like really as big as this.
We did the Minions of Mosh tour with Throwdown and All That Remains and Winter Solstice earlier this year. That was a headlining tour, but that was secondary cities. So this is the first major headlining tour that we've done.
I don't think our band's as good as kids think our band is. I think that's why I get a little more nervous. All the different things we're doing on this tour that are new from any other tours. We're doing the lights for our first time.
We have a light guy, and we bring the lights with us.
We're doing banner changes to 3 banners.
A little something we picked up from our buddies in Maiden, Iron Maiden.
We're doing a full-blown intro, which is pretty epic. So hopefully by the time the intro's over, people will still be around.
We've never played this long of a set before, so I had to build up my stamina a little bit,
We're playing songs that we've never played before live.
Reflection, Darkest Nights, and Control is Dead.
Here's one off of our new CD. It's called Reflection.
Jordan's doing a sweet drum solo.
I'm not actually too nervous about that one though, because while he does it, I'm just gonna go chill, tune my guitar a little bit, drink some water. I bet he's probably nervous about it.
I'm nervous about it, because obviously it's all eyes are on me at that point, so it's like if I blow it, everybody knows it. But hopefully it'll go good, I'm trying to build up a little confidence. I start the solo and I stop, and then lights come on, I drop a huge American flag behind me. I'm just, it's just so ridiculous. I love it.
Yeah, I'm in charge of the American flag. It's pretty cool. That's my job.
And sometimes it was so bad because you do this epic drum solo with all these crazy lights, and then it'd be like boom, and then one part would fall down, and it'd be like a half of an American flag or something, And then it'd be like, yeah, And then we'd know that people would be like, you blew it.
The first couple days are a little bit rough with getting everything organized and kind of getting into the swing of things, you know?
Sorry it took so long to get on stage. We had a few technical problems at the back.
Oh, it was a train wreck of a set. We still try to perform the best of our ability, to try to have fun, and we try to play these songs that mean a lot to us to the best of our ability. You know, it may not have been perfect, but for these kids to hear these songs that maybe mean a lot to them, maybe it was worth it. I hope.
There was never been a night ever since I've owned that drum set where my ride has fell over, and it fell over during my solo.
Are you serious?
Yeah, that's why I was so hasty.
Where was Rick?
He could tell that there was something wrong, and he ran out there to fix it. The ride just all flinched.
The lights weren't working.
Yeah.
I was like, we got all these lights, they're not working.
I feel like sometimes after these shows that we're in over our heads.
I just think we have a long way to go. We're still pretty young. We're still trying to grow to a point.
I always think about, as long as one kid in there in that room was stoked, then it's cool.
I'm just ranting in my slump of an emotional state right now.
Is everybody having a good time so far tonight? I hope that you enjoyed all the bands we brought with us. We're so happy to have them here with us. All the way from Live Punch Bob, Madball, of course, our friends at Norma Jean.
I'm looking forward to next week when we're all in a groove and in the zone. Then all we have to do is focus on hanging out. Hey man.
Happy birthday, man.
Oh yeah, it was yesterday, but thanks, dude. What's up, man? This guy.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Nick. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you, guys.
When bands bring out other bands for the tour, it shows a sense of community. We made sure that we were genuinely fans of all the bands we took out, not only as musicians but also as people.
Thank you so much. Give it up for Corey. Thank you so much.
This is a triumphant night.
I thought it was awesome.
Especially compared to last night.
Yeah, tonight was a lot better.
By the end of that tour, we realized that a lot of the people that were coming to the show were there for us. And that we were hanging and holding our own and I guess doing well.
I remember thinking on that headlining tour, looking out at all these people in between songs of the first shows that we had played when I first joined the band. It was just mind-blowing, all those kids that came and supported the things that we had been doing, in our lives.
We didn't know what to expect coming out here because we were so nervous about doing our first headline tour. The fact that every single one of you is here makes us so happy. Thank you so much.
Taste of Chaos, for me, I feel like was one of those tours that was a sigh of relief.
We had done a lot of metal tours, and I think pretty much hit most of the metal community. This was a good chance for us to do a crossover tour and brought us to a whole nother audience.
We weren't really sure what the crowd reaction would be, but then consistently on that tour, we would always have a great crowd reaction.
Kids singing on Confined. I don't think I've ever heard that. Maybe once on the headline tour, but for how many people are here, not necessarily to see us, it's pretty cool.
That was an awesome tour because we were playing with so many bands that we will probably never play with again.
Deftones, Thrice, Story of the Year, Atreyu, Pelican came on later on in the tour. For half the tour, Funeral for a Friend, the other half was Dredge. Deftones and Thrice have been very influential on me, just as a guitar player.
So he was really excited when he found out that Tepe skated from Thrice.
All these guitar players skateboarding all crazy, and I'm like, I don't know if that's a good idea, dude.
I was just like, dude, you're seriously nuts. You're gonna hurt yourself, and then I'm gonna have to like play guitar myself. Phil would just be like, dude, whatever, and then they would go do jumps and
Ollies.
They would do verts and
Kick flips, heel flips, pop shove it.
Pop shove it.
It was mostly a couple dudes from Thrice, a couple dudes from Story of the Year. No one really got hurt, but whenever someone would fall, it was just like, is he okay? And then like, you know, see him get up, he's like, yeah,
he's okay.
He's okay.
But we will be back out on tour this summer to headline Sounds of the Underground. Please come see us with Encasing, Cannibal Corpse, Trivium Territoire, a lot of very, very great bands.
Sounds of the Underground was a pivotal point, I think, because we were headlining that tour.
Headlining a festival that size with all those bands on it.
In Flames, Cannibal Corpse, Behemoth, Trivium, Guar.
That's a lot of pressure on a band, and there's a lot of great bands that played before them, and it's tough to kind of fill that last spot. But that tour for me, when they were playing those shows, you really felt then like, man, this band has the potential to be really massive, and they're certainly moving in that direction.
Some nights where it really felt like, oh man, like we deserve to be here. And then honestly, there were some other nights where some of the other bands just went over a lot better than us. And it was, I don't want to say humbling, because we never were really, you know, we never really had big heads about it. We're just like, crap, you know, like what are we gonna do?
The last time we headlined Vancouver, a year and a half ago, there was 150 people.
The overall vibe of the tour was great. All the bands got along and we hung out a lot. It was just a fun time.
That's how I roll. That's how I roll. Poker was a really big pastime with everyone. Like, we were always playing with the In Flames dudes.
We'd end up like staying inside the venue until the very last second. They'd be like trying to kick us out, and we're like, nah, nah, nah.
The backstage was basically just like a huge open room, like warehouse, or a parking garage maybe, and there was a giant tunnel that curved around and went down to this lower part. Come with me here to an event that is rarely seen on tour.
What's rarely seen on tour? Fun!
That was the first time I saw Tim like going crazy. He was like the leader of the pack that night.
For him to get that excited about something, it must have been special.
Did it look like I was opening Christmas presents? There was a guy like following us with a wheelchair. He was really stoked about like bombing hills in his wheelchair. We were just kind of egging him on at first. The wheelchair made it down safe. What else could go down? So we'd start like bombing the biggest hills we could along with wheelchair dude. Everybody made it out safe, but there's some pretty close calls.
When I saw that, I was just like, if somebody would not have jumped off right there, their head would have been smashed and they would have died.
I was responsible for a lot of fun, but I could have been responsible for a lot of death.
After Sounds of the Underground, we had wrapped up the whole Shadows Are Security album cycle, and we're getting ready to start writing again.
Cleaning out my bunk, because it's the last day of tour. We gotta get our stuff out.
Writing process begins tomorrow.
You know, they've just come off this really successful tour. You know, played in front of the biggest crowds I've ever played in front of. Starting to kind of get into the mode of working on the next record. And while that's all going on, there's also a little bit of an interpersonal stuff going on within the band, where Clint, the bass player, is starting to grow a little bit apart from the rest of the guys.
For the last year or so that I was in the band, I kind of knew that I wanted to do something different.
We could tell, like, you know, it was just kind of something under the surface, unspoken, that he was on his way out.
They knew that it was probably a good time for me to move on, especially with them starting to write a new record.
He was also engaged and he was going to get married, and he didn't want to be one of those dudes that was on tour, married, you know, constantly away from
his wife.
He didn't want to be really playing metal. Like, he was probably thinking about Genoa a lot because his mind was somewhere else. He wasn't putting as much into the band. So it was kind of ended up being like a mutual thing, you know?
All of us in the band are very passionate about what we do. You know, obviously there's good days and bad days, but at the end of the day, we're passionate. We're always trying to grow as musicians.
I just didn't hone in my craft on playing bass as much as they did on their instruments.
He had a lot of fun playing live and just traveling, but that was the extent of his interest.
Clint, I guess, called Tim and just said he wanted to leave the band.
He said, yeah, I think it's a good time for you to move on.
Unfortunately or fortunately, like, Clint ended up quitting, you know, around the time that we were planning on letting him go.
We both respected each other in the way we talked about it, you know, like, I feel like I'm not contributing to the band anymore, and the band's not contributing to my life anymore, so I feel like it's a good time for me to stop.
He went on more tours than any other member in general, including guitar players.
I lived with a guy for almost 3 years. It was hard. He was like one of my good friends, but we felt like it was the right move for the band, and I think in the long run, I think it was the right move for him.
At this point, I can call Clint up and hang out with him. We're better friends than ever.
I remember when it was all going down, there was just so much going on at the time that it really wasn't a situation where we could all just, you know, feel sad about anything. It was just, we constantly had to think of the next step.
And I knew they would find somebody. The band was at a point where they had so many options on people that could do it and do it probably better than I could, you know?
We started locally and with people that we knew.
Started trying people out and just getting in contact with other musicians we knew that, you know, were guys that not only could play guitar or bass well, but also had a singing voice.
A person who's comfortable on stage, you know, a guy that shared, you know, our basic values at least, you know, or same beliefs.
So they're writing, trying people out, getting ready to go on tour.
We did a Bullet for My Valentine tour in the UK and Europe, and we had 2 guys try out half and half for the tour.
We decided that none of those guys, like, while they did a good job, like, really fit.
So we had some more tryouts.
Tour got canceled, singer got sick for Bullet for My Valentine.
So we went home for a little bit, for about a week or 2.
We did another batch of tryouts.
And that's when Josh came along.
I was in a band called Gate City from Birmingham. A guy named Eric Shirey from Texas who had previously worked for Pluto Records, which is As Lily Dying's first record label, started to manage us. He had sent Tim our demo to listen to sign to Tim's Metal Blade imprint label, High Impact Recordings.
I told them that I was interested in, you know, really liked the singing and thought the music had a good energy, but they were such a new band that it wasn't like I wanted to sign them right away. You know, I wanted to wait.
We go on our mini tour and completely collapse as a band. And I'm just like, well, there goes that. My one shot is over now. I'm just gonna have to work at Papa John's and try to go to college or whatever.
They contacted me and said, hey, we're not gonna be sending you any new material because the band broke up. Just didn't want you to be waiting around for anything. And the timing of that was perfect because I immediately let them know that we were trying out bass players and that I particularly wanted Josh to try out for the band.
They made it clear there was going to be multiple people trying out, so I wasn't sure how that was going to be. And you know, even if you're the most outgoing person, it's going to be weird to just show up for trying out for a band that you know no one in.
A lot of the tryouts were in my home studio where we could actually hear what these guys sounded like under the microscope of a recording.
And we were all kind of like, whoa, like, this guy's voice, just like the tone of his voice is like really good.
The part that left me at question a little bit is that like he looked a little awkward standing there holding the bass, like jamming with us. And Jordan had the insight that was just because he was super nervous and that he was just kind of standing awkwardly because he didn't know how to relax in this environment with like a bunch of other people he didn't know. And he's, you know, 18 at the time or 19 or something.
I would consider myself a pretty awkward person. Like, I don't mean to be, but I just come off that way, I think.
I went with Jordan's hunch and said, okay, like, let's take him on a tour. Hopefully Jordan's right that he'll loosen up a little bit once we get into a live environment, and that was absolutely the case. It was funny. He was like a whole different person the next time he flew out.
We ended up going back and redoing those Bullet dates we didn't do, and Josh came for that.
It's just kind of ridiculous to think that just a random guy they'd never met would be the guy they would choose to go who'd never been on like a legitimate tour in his life.
He was going from playing in front of like 50 kids at some random place to touring with Bullet, which was 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 a night.
I knew those songs back and forth, but just being there and playing them, I was really nervous, and you know, I was just like, man, this is like a really big thing that you're gonna either do sweet on or blow.
He was way more nervous in the rehearsal space in front of the 4 of us than he was in front of those 4,000 people for his first show ever.
One of the biggest club shows we'd ever done was on that Bullet tour in London. We played the Hammersmith.
Everyone that worked for the band, like our management, our booking agent, and then
Metal Blade, like Slagle was there.
They'd be like, tonight's a pretty big show, hope you don't blow it kind of thing, you know.
That was kind of a true test of whether or not Josh could really cut it.
And it was just like such a killer show, and like everything was spot on. Everyone was like, wow, this is neat.
He came in, played really well, everything was good. It's like, hey, he can definitely do this. If he can do it under this pressure, he's in.
You know, it worked out from then on. It was like, all right, we're gonna continue with Josh.
The last day of the tour, I met with Vaughn and Kenny, and they were like, you know, if you want to do this, you're gonna be gone for about 9 months out of the year. Every year, you'll probably have to move out to California to record the record.
That was kind of the first time that we really had an opportunity to talk to him. And it was just very clear from the 10 minutes that we spoke to him that, okay, this guy's gonna work out. Like, you could just tell he had the right attitude, he had the right work ethic.
I packed up 2 garbage bags full of clothes and my guitars and moved out there. I didn't even have a bed, a TV, any furniture. Like, I just went for it.
He pretty much jumped in, you know, feet first.
The video that we got of him. Remember, because we heard his voice and we're just like, well, what does this guy look like live? So he sent us a video of like when he was filling in bass for this band, and all of a sudden we see him do this like jump kick thing. We're just like, sick.
What if I walked up and I was like, guys, this is my tryout?
Dude, we would have you would have made the band right there.
Right there, no, not even finished the tryout process.
We don't even need to hear your singing.
I'm glad they found someone that's super nice and can fill that spot really well.
It's kind of a big thing to step into. You know, he had some pretty big shoes to fill.
Clint definitely set the bar really high for me because people are just expecting to see the like insane bassist running all over the stage and putting on an awesome show.
For me to get on stage and see kids just really, really excited was what I was all about.
That was one of the things that made us an appealing live band to watch.
There's definitely some concern over what the fans would think of losing Clint.
We had to be very careful of how we handled it because we had had such a solid lineup for so long.
I guess it would lead a lot of people to think like, oh man, maybe the band's gonna change a lot, because obviously it's gonna change visually.
A lot of people were worried that it was going to affect our sound and affect the quality of the music.
Even though Clint wasn't one who recorded on any of our albums, I can understand how he became so heavily associated as an important member of the band.
It took a while to be welcomed by the fans because As They Lay Dying is known for having like a pretty rabid fan base, you know, and pretty dedicated fan base, and of course they're going to be slightly bummed if something like that happens.
We had to worry about our future as a band and wanted people to know that the core songwriters are still in the band and are still going to write a great record.
I wasn't even in the equation when they were writing most of the songs.
We had already been in writing mode, just the 4 of us, and we felt like it was important just to keep it the 4 of us.
I guess a good thing about that time was that we have 2 more years of experience working with each other and communicating with each other. So the writing process this time was way more involved.
This was one of the first times we were able to sit in a practice room and jam.
You're not programming all the drums. It's good to do that stuff to get the structure of the song, see how smooth it is, but at the same time, if you want your sound to be more dynamic and just more organic in a way, sometimes things happen naturally, you jam it out.
Being able to address our tastes, like our likes and dislikes, without getting all worked up or hurt about it, made it easier to write a better album and not dread sitting in a room together and arguing, you know?
If we started jamming something and I wasn't vibing it, or I could tell someone else wasn't vibing it, I'd just start hitting my china, like I'm playing with my china.
Phil would go, I don't know if that's really speaking to me.
It's like, how can I say this in a nice, funny way to let you know I'm not saying you suck as a musician or you suck as a songwriter. It's just like, the riff's not really speaking to me.
For a notion between us, they worked with Adam D, the guitar player in Killswitch Engage.
Adam D threw his back out on a Killswitch tour and couldn't tour, so he had the time.
We toured with Killswitch 3 or 4 times. First time we toured with him, we actually talked to him about potentially producing one of our records. It just never worked out until this record, and I think maybe it's good timing, because we've taken the band as far as we can on our own, and I think he's going to kind of help us go to the next level.
Definitely a learning experience for you guys in particular.
It was the hardest but most enjoyable tracking experience I've ever had.
What he was awesome at was just getting us to play well and not settling for crap.
You can escape!
He's a perfectionist about things.
Oh man, painful times.
Yes. Overall, it definitely helped with the recording process.
You got great performances. All the guys would say that this is their best performance recorded yet.
I've never been this happy with any of my performances.
Within all of them, there was definitely like a technical level that was kind of reached that they knew that would be challenging, as compared to their previous records where they were a little bit more straightforward.
I just decided to write the vocal part that best fits the music as opposed to worrying about the ratio of singing to screaming. And I sometimes felt like the most powerful vocal wasn't actually a screamed vocal, but was a sung vocal. And there was a couple songs where I actually sang the choruses and other songs where I left that to Josh, whose range is a bit higher than mine.
For example, Ocean Between Us, that song was really hard for me to perform in the studio just because I had never really sang anything that high before, and even none of the old As I Lay Dying stuff was even that, high pitched. So it was kind of like a struggle for me I went to a vocal coach to help me out a little bit. And I eventually, did it for the studio, but studio and live are a lot different.
Singing in the studio is definitely one of the hardest things anyone could ever do. Like in music, in my opinion, it's a very psychological game, and so I think Tim was definitely kind of, apprehensive about it.
I ended up doing both the screaming and clean vocals on Nothing Left and This Is Who We Are. It was definitely an accident that I ended up singing, I just was trying to put a place marker for Josh and all of a sudden realized, wow, my voice actually is maybe the best fit for at least a couple of these parts.
Josh was the first bass player that was in the band that actually recorded on the record. So that was pretty cool.
The amp's on. Does it seem like it was louder before? Starting day 2 of bass right now. Day 1 was just getting it set up, and we pretty much only got half a song done just because we were trying to mess around with tone for so long. So this will be the first full day of bass tracking. An Ocean Between Us was the first record we did in this recording studio.
I've been here since Lambisa Studios. It was just a little laptop and a desk.
I had just finished the exterior construction of my studio when we started recording An Ocean Between Us, so I was just kind of still getting things together on the inside.
We had just got all this new gear, and so we just pretty much put it up a week or two before. So definitely there were some kinks that were not worked out yet.
These are the preamps. Believe it or not, that small space right there is worth more than this whole setup right here.
Definitely working hard and definitely turned quickly because something happened and definitely knocked over a glass of water into the chassis that holds that $3,000 mic preamp. Yeah.
That stuff happens,
You didn't overreact at all.
No, I was calm, yeah.
And then we spent the rest of the day with hair dryers and towels, and me going, damn, I really didn't mean that, dude. I'm so sorry.
After the first song in, we had to make adjustments, and we were kind of making adjustments through the whole time.
It was kind of shifting and changing constantly as the recording was going on, which I think added to the stress, but partly, for me, the excitement of seeing how things came out.
The most rewarding thing was just getting the mixes back. I just made a playlist of our album and I listened to it from beginning to end. And I was just like, it's pretty sick.
I genuinely do feel like this is some of the best songs and material that we've ever put together.
An Ocean Between Us is our best record.
It's the first record that I love every song.
It's definitely not an expected album.
The quote-unquote metalcore genre was kind of in full swing, and I think An Ocean Between Us separated the band from that, where they had a trademark sound.
The record debuted at number 8 on the Billboard chart, which in and of itself was insane.
You don't hear of metal bands getting in top 10.
It's like Nickelback, As I Lay Dying. We're like, wow, that's pretty insane.
Thank you so much for being here. This is our first headlining tour since our new CD came out 2 months ago. So hopefully some of you have our new CD called An Ocean Between Us.
The Ocean Between Us tour was my first legit tour I'd been a part of. It's actually my first time to be in a bus tour in the United States, and it's just like, I don't know what a typical As I Lay Dying headline show is like, because we've only played festivals or like smaller shows in the States at that point.
Everybody make some noise!
Tours, you know, to get a feel for each other, but like now it's awesome. I love all the dudes in the band, and we all have a good time, and it's not like awkward or weird or anything anymore.
Yeah! Josh, you're starting to feel a little comfortable.
It's a bad sign, huh?
Yeah.
Every new member goes through that. I've experienced it many times.
I've experienced it with old members. Like, man, that guy's really cool. I can't wait to play in this band. And then about 3 weeks goes by in a van, and you're like, oh. Andrew, you get that thing off of me?
I don't have time for your nonsense, Jordan.
You should take footage from like the winter headlining tour. We're all like nice and sweet and young, and then phase in footage of this headlining tour being super jerk, like rock stars.
Doing hard drugs.
As long as we really aren't super jerk rock stars.
Right now! No.
I'd love to do a guitar solo. If I could play a guitar solo, if I could do Eruption, I would do it in a heartbeat. Should pass me the V.
Somebody bring me my Fiji water.
Josh needs to brush his teeth.
You rinse my body off.
How's the show today? How many people are here?
We had 1,057 before doors open.
That's it?
The shows were amazing and the turnouts were really awesome. Despite other tours that were going on at the same time having pretty like dismal turnouts, that one did really well.
And from there we just did another headlining tour in like smaller cities.
That tour was with August Burns Red, Evergreen Terrace, and Still Remains. We found out a few days after the first Ocean Between Us tour that we were nominated for the Grammy.
And I was like, wait, what? We got nominated for a Grammy?
There was a little bit of a debate within the band as to whether it made sense for them to go or not.
We all thought it was cool, but you know, like Tim didn't want to go because he didn't think that it mattered.
You know, when is there a chance to tell, as an artist, to tell your fans that that stuff's not important, that sort of notoriety isn't why we play music?
You know, I was like stoked just being nominated. I didn't care if we won.
I went to the ceremony, I had a great time, really did. That was, to me, the most fun. I mean, even though we didn't win.
I was definitely an obnoxious jerk at the Grammys.
We were sitting right by where everybody walks out. So Nick was just yelling at everybody, waving.
Like Tom Hanks would walk by and he's like, hey, Tom, 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 and just wait for them to give us a reaction.
Nelly Furtado, we yelled at her about 3 times.
Ringo Starr totally snubbed us. I was kind of bummed.
Oh, what up, Nelly Furtado? Like, you know, trying to like holler at her and stuff, but they weren't really into that.
Rihanna was the best because she was walking by and I was like, oh, what's up, Rihanna? And she looked at me and I was like, yeah.
And then she like waves, looks away, and looks back. And it was just like, no way.
I mean, those guys just had so much fun. They were like kids in a candy store.
We're so out of place, but at the same time, like, you know, why not live it up for a night? You know?
At the end of the day, it doesn't really mean anything.
We don't really put too much merit into those types of successes as far as, you know, how we feel about our band or how we look at ourselves.
In summer of 2008, As I Lay Dying did the first half of Warped Tour. Right after we confirmed Jordan's dad was diagnosed with terminal cancer.
Basically, doctors came to the conclusion that he had like a couple days to live, but he was still going, and you know, so they brought him home after about 5 days in the hospital.
We did not want Jordan to have to leave home and, you know, do a tour when he's having to be concerned about his dad's health back home.
He was very helpful. I mean, he'd stay up and sleep, you know, right next to me on the sofa, or they would, Beth and them, they'd all take turns, and it just meant an awful lot to me.
Yeah, I just didn't want to leave, you know?
Of course, the band members were so supportive. That meant a lot to him.
Those
They all
guys,
came
that's
out
what,
to
I mean, I just,
hospital to see Paul, and it just really was a neat
that
thing.
was a special time.
It made me realize how much we've grown together as a band and how much Jordan and I particularly have really become a huge part of each other's lives.
Especially in times like this where things are tough and, you know, sometimes don't make a lot of sense. To know you have those dudes caring for you, it means the world, you know?
We're all so committed to the band and making sure that we carry out our obligations, but at the same time, family, friends, like those are, to me, more important than this band.
You know, once my dad was feeling a little bit more up to it, and you know, I talked with them about it and kind of asked for their advice.
So I just told him, I said, Jordan, I said, you need to do what you're going to do. I mean, the Lord's going to take me when he's ready and not any time before. So whether you're here or not, I know you'd like to be here, and I want you to be here too, but you're only a phone call away.
And that shows the strength and the type of courage and character that his father has, to know that it was important for not only his son, but it was important for his dad that his son go out there and do that.
I went on tour, and you know, it was hard to leave, of course, and but I knew my dad wanted me to be out there, and so I wanted to be out there.
He was able to kind of balance both things, which is, I'm still not sure how he quite did it.
As we did Warped Tour and as it got closer to Warped Tour, his condition, you know, just started, you know, improving slowly.
Over time, he's been getting stronger. He's walking around, like, you know, he needs his wheelchair every once in a while, but he doesn't need a walker anymore.
When the live show on this DVD was shot, Jordan's dad was at the show, which I know for everybody was a pretty emotional moment.
It's a miracle he's still here, you know, especially from what the doctor said, and, you know, we're praying for more miracles.
It's impressive to me how Jordan is able to keep such a positive attitude. Obviously, having your dad be very sick is something that would be tough for any of us to handle, much less having to go play shows and play them with, you know, your heart and soul.
They had quite a schedule. They were on the road a lot.
This album cycle's been nuts. So many tours. We've already done 3 headliners in the U.S. We're about to do 2 more.
The longest break we've had, I think, is a month and a half, and we're finishing that up right now.
This is the first band that I've ever had to actually pull off the road, because they were touring so much that you could see they were getting burned out. They're going to do another tour. I go, no, you're getting off the road. You're not going to tour. Go home.
It breaks my heart. I really don't want to go home and hang out, sleep in my own bed. I'd love to stay on tour.
When the states get exhausted from seeing us too much, we can be like, oh, let's go to Europe.
We've done 4 tours in Europe so far on this album cycle.
For me, it was a big deal to go to the UK when I went for the first time. And now, you know, I've been to Europe multiple times, and every couple of days I'll just step back and think about it and be like, this is definitely a blessing to be in this spot.
I have to remember that, how enthusiastic I was about it the first times, because now we're gearing up for a trip to Europe, and I'm kind of dreading it. I'm like, oh, I'm going to be so tired. Like, I don't want to go. I'd rather stay at home. But 4 or 5 years ago, I would have been restless the night before because I just couldn't imagine what it was that I was about to experience. I don't want to lose that innocent enthusiasm and just curiosity for the world. It's magical.
I'd been overseas, you know, to Europe twice, so of course going to Asia was a completely different ballgame. We actually did Loud Park in Japan, and we did 1 show in Bangkok, Thailand.
Thailand is one of those places that you never think you'll actually get to see in your lifetime, and the fact that we got to go there was kind of overwhelming.
We played Russia, which was really cool.
The festival in Dubai was insane.
The things that we've been able to do and see, and the people that we've been able to impact, it's amazing. I never thought that things would get to this size.
To travel to so many amazing places, to meet people that have so many different perspectives that I could learn about just through the cultures, it naturally influenced my life.
It's over a year into the album cycle now, and we still have tours to do where we're going to play places for the first time.
So in August of 2008, we played the Wacken Festival in Germany, which is spelled out Wacken. You know, it's just weird to think that there's a metal festival anywhere in the world where 70,000 people will show up on one day.
We're at Wacken Festival, Germany.
There's like, I don't know, not that many people out there. Show the crowd. No pressure, zero pressure.
It's a lot of people. That's the most we've ever played in front of.
Probably the only other time I've been around that many people is like an American football game.
I don't know how many of them are watching, but I swear it was every single one of them.
It's intimidating to play right after Hatebreed, too.
And we have to play an hour, and I'm really scared. Just hope I don't blow it.
It's the first time we're using the gear, so I'm a little nervous about that.
Normally I have 2 backup guitars, but because of the way like flying works, I was just like, I chanced it, and actually Phil and I both chanced it and only brought an extra one. And then his guitar headstock broke on the flight over here, and then my input jack is messed up.
I was tuning his guitar, I'm like, man, this thing isn't really like reading, the tuner's not really reading it that well, and we found out literally like 20 minutes before we went on that there was like a soldering problem.
And so we both don't have backups.
What do I do? Forgot how to play.
I'm a little unnerved that there's just no house music playing right now, and there's no other bands playing either. It's literally just nothing, no silence at a metal festival.
Yeah, I want to make noise. Watch this. Kids are gonna get stoked. Here we go. Germans rule.
I actually was no more nervous to play the Wacken Festival than I was, you know, to play a show for our hometown crowd here in San Diego. I just peed in my pants.
What's that?
No, I'm just kidding.
Are you nervous?
No, not so much, but I got to pee still. I'm gonna go find a fence.
How do you feel? Shared out. Look, I don't even want to talk right now. Have you seen that? Have you seen that? Woo!
Honestly, I would say our performance was not that great.
A little rough.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little rough.
Then good. It wasn't just me.
When you guys were on, it was sick.
We didn't play as well as we could have, so that was what was just disheartening, because we did that in front of a lot of people.
Definitely not my best show. Definitely not even a good show by my standards. That's the perfect example of not letting stress get to you, and it got to me that day, I think.
I was just a little nervous, and it kind of affected how I performed.
Played kind of sloppy, but it was fun. It's actually really good.
It was a lot of fun, and some of the songs turned out really well.
And they did play a great show. The show got great reviews.
There's no way like 5 dudes are gonna play perfect for an hour.
I've never heard any of those guys say they've ever had a good show. I'll never forget, I went and saw them at the Whiskey. I thought they were phenomenal. And I go backstage and they're all ready to hang themselves.
Anytime there was something really crucial where it's like, don't worry about any other guys, because Nick's playing something cool, I would blow something. I would just like,
it's like, wow, I've been playing guitar for like 13 years now. I've played hundreds and hundreds of shows, maybe even thousands. This is as good as I've gotten, you know? Today was one of those days where I just like wasn't in the zone, you know? Seems like I get bummed on our shows a lot.
Yeah.
Really? I just didn't own it.
Every time everyone in the band's like, oh, that show was awesome, it was so great.
How was your show?
It's really good, actually.
Pretty good show.
And then here comes Nick,
That wasn't exactly the tightest set I've ever played.
just like sulking and just bummed out on life.
And be like, that show was awful.
I didn't make my guitar sing.
Every time everyone thinks this show was awful, Nick will come in and be like, how's your guys' set? Mine was awesome.
I don't really necessarily think he has more bad shows than anyone else does. I think he just is more vocal about it than anyone else.
I'm not even going to ask him about how I never wanted sounded, because I know it sounded like garbage.
I'm more of the like silent type. If I'm like messed up the show, I'm just like super pissed and I just want to be alone and not talk to anyone about it.
I don't want to talk to anyone.
You feel like you let down the team. You feel guilty about that.
Most of the time, I will get bummed if I miss a squeal.
I nail like 75% of the squeals. And 25% are the worst squeal ever, like 5-year-old. Like, clunk, clunk.
I deal with my frustration internally.
Jordan was very happy with the set, as you can tell.
I just kind of think about like, okay, I blew it here. Or I need to try this next time.
You do the best you can, and then after that, just let it be what it is.
That kind of mentality is what I would rather have, and how I'd rather approach it, and that's what I've been trying to do for a while.
A great show isn't necessarily about playing every single note perfectly, because most people in the crowd, if you miss 2 or 3 notes here and there, you're not going to notice it unless it's a major flub up.
You guys get bummed out because of like one little thing. I don't think it's that big a deal.
They're so critical of themselves.
So I now realize how lazy I've been. I haven't been giving 100% because I've never been this tired on this tour yet.
But that helps them be better every night that they play. Because if they weren't that way, if they thought like, oh yeah, that was a great show, we were awesome, then you kind of lose that hunger.
If you care about being a tight musician, you will strive to be as tight at all times as you can.
It's so cool to create music that gets me excited the way music got me excited when I was little. It still gets me excited. When I first started the band, it's like I just had this passion, like I wanted to create music, but I didn't necessarily know how to create these type of songs that like I had in my head, but I couldn't get them to translate into guitar. As I understand the songwriting process and music as a whole so much better, I think I'm more passionate about it because I can be more precise in putting on a recording what it is that I'm thinking in my head.
Broken dreams now run fortune, and we've been condemned to chasing dreams that never.
To actually play music full time, that was a huge monumental step for me.
The reason we're all here today, I present Brian Slagle.
Thank you.
The label was just really proactive and really dedicated to this band, and they were committing time and money, considering they are an independent label. I mean, what they've been able to accomplish, really has been remarkable.
We're getting ready to go in the studio, and we don't have to like pull together every resource that we possibly have. If we borrow some money, I promise we'll pay you back. We just want to go in the studio and record new music. There's people that believe in us enough to invest. That's crazy to me, I mean, because it's easy, I think, to believe in yourself, but it's hard to get other people to believe in you.
The music is great, the attitude of the band is great, the relationship with the fans is great. Everything that surrounds them makes it to be that they have the success they do.
Another monumental event would be the fact that we sold 1 million records worldwide.
I actually purchased the 1 millionth copy of their record. So, they don't realize that, but, they have a lot to thank me for that feat.
I've never counted 2 million, so that'd probably be another monumental event if I just sat here and counted 2 million.
We can walk around and brag about how these guys are platinum artists.
That doesn't happen.
Has anybody here ever heard us before?
Your friend's band doesn't become a worldwide artist that tour like 9 months out of the year.
Thank you so much. We're outside dying.
That, I don't know. I'm so proud of them. It's crazy to think how it happened.
It is weird to see the progression of where they've gone, but it also makes sense thinking back.
They definitely put in their time. Those first couple tours were so lean.
a lot of really, really bad shows, but they were persistent in doing it, and all the success they've had, they've earned.
Every key member that's been in that band has been a stepping stone to get them where they are today. And I know that that's not forgotten because they're always so humble and thankful of their fans and the people that have been associated with them through this process. I should say through the journey, because it's been a journey for them.
Even though they're to a point now where they're really comfortable, they haven't lost that, I don't know how else to call it other than humility, that they had when they were playing for 30 people.
They're just sweet guys. I mean, I just love them all.
We've been given an opportunity that I never dreamt I ever would have had, playing in a band and traveling around the country. So thank you so much for supporting us. It means everything to me.
They've just grown together, and I've enjoyed watching them grow together.
We're still growing, you know, we're still growing as a band. That's a great part about it, and we never want to stop growing.
This is who we are.
I keep having higher and higher expectations, not just of the band, but of myself.
I'd love if we can just take it up a notch, if I can get better at guitar over time, and if we can get better as a band together and just do everything we do just a little bit better next time.
The band has never been content with writing the same record twice or, you know, doing something that sounds exactly like something else that's popular. It's not about that.
We spent all this time like working on something and just creating something out of thin air, just like thinking like and overthinking and just feeling a certain way and just trying to like write music that moves us to tour off of that and play it for other people. It's more than I had ever expected, but what I had always dreamed of.
This band, you know, has just exceeded my expectations one day after another. Like, I'll think about it and just be like, I'm the luckiest guy on earth right now.
I love being in this band because I love making heavy music. I love the creativity that goes behind it and the energy that goes into it. And, you know, sometimes you get burnt out. What's most important is looking past that and just realizing why I'm doing this. All that is comes from you. I have all that is
When we first started this band, all I wanted to do was play heavy music, and Tim was the same way.
I had a certain idea in mind, and that idea will always carry through because that's what Jordan and I agreed on. You know, that's the foundation that we want to play music full time, and we want to have a certain ethic about the way we do things and a certain passion that we represent in our lyrics. That's never going to change because that's what the band was founded on.
It's music. It's a mirror. Revealing the depths of my heart. Then I will write the darkest song.
I can honestly say that that passion that was in me then is still in me now. If the passion ever ceases to exist, I will probably cease to exist. Because I love it so much. I love metal. Even when I'm old and wrinkly, I'll still be playing.
Where did destruction come from? Yeah!
Hey guys, camera's on. Camera's on. Everyone act cool. Everybody out there who thinks that, you know, film just magically comes together, there's hours of wasted footage that Denise has to watch.
I can't believe we're gonna sift through all this and cut this down to a DVD length.
Denise, can you tell me about the process of editing and how, when you're filming moments like these, you just hit fast forward or what? Like if I were to tumble down the stairs, you'd probably keep that, right?
That light freaks me out so bad. I don't know what to do. I just start looking at the lens and I'm just like...
How do you like that camera? Huh? How do you like the light camera?
I'm not talking anymore. You turn the light off.
Baby, I just played a show. Get that thing out of my face.
And the camera.
I'm going to be the one on the other side of the ball. Yeah, you'll do an edit on it. You'll put it all together.
I know how to get you to not film.
Where's
Where's the freaking...
Look at Jordan.
I'm trying to get the thing. There you go. Wait, I'm trying to get my face and the guy in the shot.
This is terrible. I look upside down right now.
You're gonna watch this footage and be like, what was I doing? Well, what the hell was I thinking? You're a cinematographer, Denise.
There's like an animal farm up there right now. Literally, it's like raging. Like they're partying, animals are partying and stuff.
Just. Crow has something to say about it. Let's hear the crow's wisdom.
They have like a slide or something. I'm not even joking you.
Of course, we're doing an interview by train.
Mike, check.
Syphilis.
Check syphilis.
Sizzler.
Syphilis. Salami.
Sounds hot.
Salamander.
Sounds hot.
This should be their new cover. Ashley Dunn's new cover because they always have skulls, you know?
Potatoes au gratin. Sizzler.
Sweet and sour sauce. What if I did this one? Like a senior picture?
Should I turn or should I stand like this and do the interview like this?
Yeah.
Well, basically, we're gonna rock.
Hey, they know we're here, dude. We're over here!
Dude, it's so weird.
It's good.
Bullseye. Outtakes.
Be careful. Don't take anything he says with any sort of seriosity or anything. The
He's
guy
absolutely
has
correct.
no idea what he's talking about. He's making it all up. There's a whole script he's been rehearsing for like weeks for this.
Damn,
thing. So it's all
it fell somewhere.
Completely meaningless. So just remember that when you watch this.
You know, problem. No, that. I don't want it to sound like what you like, Dr. Phil.
Frail words crap. Call it that.
I'm not a speechwriter, okay?